Well, I am officially back from my trip to Scotland, and you know what that means. I finally got to see this movie! Hi everybody, Anthony here from Awesome Anthony Productions, and today I'm going to give you my review of Alien Romulus. But before we get started, you know exactly what to do. At the end of the video, if you think I've earned it, please leave a like, subscribe, and ring that bell so you never miss any of my new reviews. Now let's get into it. Directed by 2013's Evil Dead and Don't Breathe's Fede Alvarez, Alien Romulus takes place several years after the events of the original Alien and the devastation of the Nostromo at the hands of the Xenomorph. This time we focused on a group of young adults, with our two leads here being the sibling duo of Rain, played by Civil War's Kaylee Spaney, and her adopted, recommissioned android brother Andy, played by David Johnson, together with Archie Renoir's Tyler, Isabella Merced's Kay, Spike Fern's Bjorn, and Eileen Wu's Navarro. They take the chance to get off of their prison-like existence on their terrible mining planet and decide to investigate a derelict space station hovering right above the atmosphere. But what awaits them on board is worse than they could have ever imagined.
Boss, look, an alien! Where?
Let me just start by saying that as someone who absolutely loves the first two Alien movies and could pretty much take or leave the rest of the franchise, especially those sequels after 2 and those super weird prequels.
Watch me. I'll do the fingering.
What?
I didn't have the highest hopes for this when it was first announced, but then I found out that it was going back to the franchise's horror roots and that Fede Alvarez was directing, and my interest was totally piqued. And I can say that, outside of a few complaints, this really is the best in the series since Aliens, and I personally really enjoyed it. To start with what works here, I really want to praise Alvarez and the crew on the production values here. 90% of this film is practical, from the sets to the weapons to the aliens, and the film feels so much more grounded thanks to that. I also appreciated the retro-futurism in a lot of the designs here, like the big bulky computers, the very industrial look of the space station, and the fact that there are pretty much no touch screens in sight, just analog buttons and 16-bit graphics all over the place. Speaking of being more grounded, I absolutely love that this film went back to the claustrophobic tension of the first Alien movie. It also has very small stakes here too. There's nothing about the meaning of life or the origin of humanity weighing down this script. We just have a small crew trapped on this space station trying to survive the night with these horrifying creatures, and it definitely works to the film's benefit.
I'm in danger!
It also contributes to some very thrilling and creative set pieces here that use the logic and lore of the xenomorph species to great effect. Whether it's their acid blood, the characters being chased by an army of facehuggers, or the typical classic, the chest burster. And when this is combined with those practical effects that I mentioned, using actors in suits or animatronics that are only minimally enhanced with CGI, it all comes together beautifully, aside from one visual effect that I'll mention later. The scares are also super effective here too, with a range of jumps, disturbing imagery, and shocking violence, bound to satisfy both fans of the franchise and horror fans. It also has the only jump scare to actually make me jump and kind of yelp a little bit since 2022's Smile, so I have to applaud it for that. I also thought the story was surprisingly strong here too, keeping it simple enough with a group of young adults that just want to escape their miserable lives, along with a few late in the game reveals that just add to the lore and the world building of the Alien franchise, and maybe even tie into those weird prequels that I mentioned at the beginning. None of this would work half as well if we didn't have characters here that we actually care about, and our two leads definitely fall into that camp, even if the rest of the characters don't, but I'll get to that later. As for siblings Rain and Andy, however, Kaylee Spaney and David Johnson are really the heart of this movie. From the very beginning, even with his role just playing an android, David Johnson portrays Andy as a very sympathetic character, having a quiet, awkward personality and a prime directive to just do what's best for his sister, with a few awful dad jokes thrown in there to make you smile. Johnson pulls all of that off very well, and keeping in mind that he's an android, when his performance has to change a little bit throughout the movie, he pulls that off very well too. Coming back to Rain, after seeing her vulnerable, coming-of-age performance in Civil War, Kaylee Spaney has been on my radar, and I think she did a great job here. Unlike a lot of rage bait YouTubers' opinions that they formed before they even saw the movie, she's not a perfect, insufferable girl boss with a chip on her shoulder that's a perfect action hero. No, just like the beginning of Civil War, she plays her character very down-to-earth and vulnerable here, and it helps that the writing gives her and her brother a very relatable goal. But very much in the vein of Sigourney Weaver's Ripley, as the story progresses, so does her character, and she definitely rises to the occasion and becomes a lot more capable as the movie goes on.
We have to rise to the occasion like Ripley and kick monster butt in our undies.
And seeing the way that she holds her own and realizes that she can't really physically fight off the aliens, and she uses her brain to solve a lot of problems, gives her some very strong characterization and definitely helps you root for her.
Clever girl.
Now, when it comes to the other characters, this is where I'm going to get into my few complaints before I wrap up the review. They are completely two-dimensional. They're lucky if they get get one or two throwaway lines of character development, because for the rest of the movie, they're just caricatures that are there to add to the body count. So that was pretty disappointing to see, especially on a rewatch of Alien and Aliens and seeing the great characters that are in those movies. I forgot to mention there is one very on-the-nose line that's a callback to one of the original Alien movies, and it drives me crazy when movies do that. It's like how in all of the new Terminator sequels, someone always has to say, "I'll be back."
I'll be back.
I'll be back.
I'll be back.
Also, to bring back up the visual effects, everything here is top-notch, except for one thing, which actually has my last two complaints built into one. Number one, this effect brings back an established character from the franchise, I am not going to say who, but does so with a CGI AI form of a deceased actor, and I am just vehemently against that in so many ways. I hated it in The Flash, I didn't really like it in Rogue One. Number two, the CGI used to bring this character back is slightly uncanny at best, and stiff, ugly, and horrifying at worst.
The Uncanny Valley. The what?
But thankfully, those are really my only complaints here. Overall, this is a strong return to the grounded horror roots of the Alien franchise with a very strong pair of sibling leads, fantastic practical effects and sets that fully bring you back into this world, strong scares and set pieces, and a solid story that adds some lore and world building into this already established franchise without breaking any canon. Even if the supporting cast is very two-dimensional, and the film kind of hurts itself a little bit by opting to bring back a deceased actor using AI and CGI that is firmly planted in the Uncanny Valley. And that's my review of Alien Romulus. Thank you so much for watching. It's good to be back. If you like this review, you know exactly what to do. I said it earlier. Please leave a like, subscribe, and ring that bell so you never miss any of my new videos. While you're at it, you can scroll down in the description, find the links to my social media, leave a comment, let me know if you saw this movie and what you thought, and if you want more of my content, you can click or tap on these cards right here. It'll take you to my review of Cuckoo or just over to my channel where you can check out the rest of my reviews and my shorts. Thanks for watching, everybody, and I will see you next time for my review of The Crow. Oof.